the more polarized you allow yourself to get, the less intelligent you are. You see that it just rots your intelligence, just obliterates your IQ like nothing else. Polarization does that to us. Okay, so welcome everyone. Thanks for showing up. We're going to talk about current events, what's going on in the world right now, especially in this country, with the recent assassination attempt and all of the changes that are happening as a result of that. And we're not going to approach it so much with an eye to the politics. We want to look at how we can deal with these changes and all of the turmoil as spiritual people. In other words, how does this affect our spiritual lives? And what kind of strategies can we form or formulate to deal with all of the tumultuous things that are flying over the internet and on TV? At bare minimum, we have to be able to distinguish our thoughts from thoughts that are coming from an external source. It's very important. Know yourself. Know what you're about. Know what you stand for. Know where you stand. It's like the saying goes, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. So a person who's questioning their own commitments will be up for grabs. And everybody wants to belong. Everybody wants to feel like their lives are important. And so they're going to latch on to the first thing that's made available to them. And that's not always a good thing. So take the time to do your meditation and do your inner work, and always question, where are my thoughts coming from? And what do I really feel about this? And am I going to, again, as part of your strategy, are you going to listen to the talking heads, or are you going to take your own reasoning ability and apply it to the facts as you know them? And which facts are you going to base your judgments upon? Are you going to say, if you're looking at Trump and all you're hearing are criticisms from his critics, that's not a way to evaluate what he's about. In order to evaluate what you can't even go to him, right? Because he's a politician, and it's very hard to tell what a politician is about, because they're always speaking in terms of what they're going to do. I'm much more interested in what they've already done. Look at the record and see, well, what was his 4 years like? And the same with Biden. If you're a Trump fan and you're looking at Biden, look at what he's done in the 4 years. And again, you can't just trust the politicians, because they're 24/7 spin, and everybody who's promoting them online and in all the media, they are 24/7 spin. So you have to vet your sources of information. Look for the best, most respected and qualified people, and listen to them. And the more objective they are, the more you can trust them. You can listen to, say, a conservative speaker who's very intelligent, very qualified, has excellent credentials, either in journalism or politics or the military or whatever. And then also listen to people on the other side, on the liberal side, and see just how far up the food chain you can go and find the very best information you can, which means, is the person qualified to speak on what he's talking about? Does he have experience, or she? How smart are they? How objective can they be? Are they fair-minded, or are they condemnatory right out of the gate? Like, nothing the other side does has any merit. See, that's a sign of extreme polarization, and extreme polarization always gives you only two options, this or that. That's what polarization does. And it completely nullifies the possibility for a third option. And how many problems throughout history have been solved by getting out of the polarized perspective and thinking outside the box and coming up with an innovative, surprisingly effective remedy for the problem. Something that nobody thought of because everybody was backed into their corner. So that you can't think when you're backed into a corner. So don't let that happen to you. The more polarized you allow yourself to get, the less intelligent you are. You see, that it just rots your intelligence, just obliterates your IQ like nothing else. Polarization does that to us. So we have to come more, to the middle path and be able to see both sides objectively and not overcommit to either one. But then once we have the information we feel we need and we get more conviction within ourselves, then we can commit. You see, but then you've committed intelligently. You have an informed opinion, not just an opinion, because everybody's got one of those, right? So we don't want to be like that. If we have an opinion on a political issue, we want it to be informed. And you can't be informed if all you know is your side of the story, your side of the argument. It's like, I think it was Edmund Burke in the 1800s, I think. He said, "He who knows little of his opponent's argument knows little of his own." Because how can you really know where you stand if you don't know where the other side stands? You're in the blind. You don't know, because we're so subject to delusion when we're polarized. We can talk ourselves into believing almost anything. In fact, you see this so often in the more polarized somebody is away from Trump, the more evil Trump becomes. He's no longer just a Republican, he becomes Hitler. And if you're for Trump, especially in the wake of a seemingly miraculous dodging of a bullet, you go from your guy to Messiah, you see? So both sides are extreme opinions, and both of those, Hitler or Messiah, either one of those is problematic, seriously problematic. So you don't want to put your weight behind that polarization. You want to be the remedy to that. You want to find a place where you can rise above that polarization and then start looking around and saying, well, what else is possible? What are we not seeing? See, that's like a scientific approach to any problem. What am I not seeing? What don't I understand? And you can take that in prayer and say, God, tell me, show me, what am I not seeing? What am I getting wrong? What have I got right? You see, and then listen. And generally speaking, when we ask God a question, it shuts off our thinking, because what we're doing is, with our thinking voice, we're saying God, which, okay, immediately opens us up into a much greater dimension in the mind. So that quiets the mind immediately. And then you ask the question, what am I not seeing? The answer will come, and it will come as a thought, generally in your own thinking voice. So you think it's your thought. And more often than not, it will be unimpressive. Let's put it that way. In other words, it's not a flash of lightning and, a finger coming down and writing the truth on stone tablets. like in the movie, you know? No, it comes like just, it's like your own thought. It's like, oh, I need to do this now. You see, but and the more responsive you can become to that, the better your connection with your own inner guidance. You see what comes up from within you, and then is, you know, flashed on your brain screen or in your ear, and there you go. You've got divine guidance. It's not that it's not that much of a problem. In fact, it's very easy. And the more you listen to it and the more you follow it, you know, actually do what your inner prompt tells you to do, then the easier it comes. And the easier it comes, the more the quickly it comes. There is a caveat to this, though, because if you get that flow going, and it's getting faster and quicker, and the gate opens up more and more, and so you're just really in tune with your own inner guidance and things are clicking right along, and then you decide, well, enough of that, you see, and you decide to put the brakes on. Well, it's a little bit like when you get going too fast on a bicycle, and instead of putting on the brakes, you jam your feet down into the pavement. You know what that feels like. It's not very much fun. You can lose control, and there you go. So if you go down the path of spirituality and you get more in touch with your spiritual guidance, your connection with God gets stronger and stronger. Don't treat it lightly. You know, don't say, well, this is all, you know, fun and games, but I think I want to sit down now, right? I'm going to sit this one out, and good luck with that, because it's like you don't want to commit to that kind of relationship with God and then say, I changed my mind. You see, and a lot of things in the Old Testament, God comes across as a jealous God and as a harsh ruler, and, you know, with punishments. And really, that's what the Bible is talking about, is if you get a lot of energy moving in you and then you try to cap it off, that's going to cause problems. There are consequences for that. Not that you're being punished. It's just it's what happens when you let energy build up and then you try to stop it. That's just, you know, it's like going too fast on roller skates, and what are you going to do? Whatever you do, don't do it too quickly, right? You want to come down slowly. So these are really good things to know. So we want to combine a few things here. We want to combine the fact that many of our thoughts that come through our mind are not ours. We're just picking them up out of the air from other people who maybe have a stronger broadcast signal than we do, and it's propagating through the universal mind, or the mass mind, which is a subsection of the universal mind. It's like a local mind, local part of the universal consciousness. So we can receive things like that, but so be discerning and just assume right off that it's not yours. But as those thoughts come in, they're going to activate your emotions, because our emotions always follow our beliefs. And if we think that the thoughts in our head are ours, that it's almost like automatically, then it's a belief. And if we identify with that, then it's very difficult to refute, because it's like trying to refute yourself. And that has an existential risk element to it that makes everyone very uncomfortable. It's called cognitive dissonance. It's sometimes impossible to question the thoughts in your own mind, because you believe that they're yours and therefore they are you, or they're an expression of you. So that is not spiritual thinking. That's spiritual materialism. Okay? So we want to be careful of that. So, and the other thing we want to make sure that we understand is that our commitment matters. When you really commit to something, you throw an enormous amount of weight behind the thing that you're committing to. So that is also part of self-knowledge. You want to find out what are you really willing to put your life on the line for? And that sounds negative and cult-like, so I don't like to put it that way. It's better to say, what are you really committed to living into? What vision do you have that makes your life meaningful and worthwhile? You see, that's really important to know. Because so often, especially in today's climate where everything is being undermined, the veracity of everything is being undermined. That's a whole nother subject about why that's happening. Just, I think you get that it is happening. Meanings of words are being inverted. Things that we used to, everybody assume are being overturned and reversed. In terms of history, in terms of psychology, in terms of philosophy and religion, everything is being upended. And again, there are reasons for that, but it goes beyond the scope of this class. So just realize that that's going to work against your ability to commit to a greater good that only you know. You see, because what I'm talking about is not a philosophy. It's something that you have to be directly connected with, something that really matters to you. That is, for all intents and purposes, that is God for you. That's like the face of God. So because it's your highest conception of the good. You see? So that for you is God. And that, like in the Old Testament, it says, God is a jealous God. I am a jealous God. That's what he says. And we see that happen because when we are untrue to our own highest good, our life starts to fall apart. We start having serious problems because we've left our first love. The thing we love the most, if we start to doubt it or we get distracted by external events, then we become conflicted within ourselves. And the more conflicted we are within, the less spiritual vitality and life energy and effectiveness in the world. It hurts our agency. The more conflicted we are, the less agency we have. And believe me, agency, if you want to talk about political science, individual agency is the backbone of democracy. Even, a democratic republic. People must be willing, able, and committed to their agency, which means what I do, what I think matters a lot. And the more you know that, then the more influence you have through the medium of the universal consciousness as it's stepped down within the local mind, called what we call the mass mind. So now I'll visit one more thing that is influencing the zeitgeist, you might say. Why things have gotten so polarized and why there is so much turmoil in the world right now. It's not just because of ideologies. It's not just because of the internet and everybody having access to way more information than the brain is capable of handling. Those are all factors, but they're not the main factor. The main factor is a much broader, more cosmological factor, and that is the frequency of the vibration of the earth and the mind within which the earth is enclosed, the global mass mind, you might say. All of that, the frequency of vibration of that is going up, dramatically up. Somebody is turning up the heat. And I'm not talking about global warming. I'm talking about frequency of the mental atmosphere in which we live. The vibration is going up, which means it's vibrating faster, which means it has more heat. The element of fire is, it changes everything. So heat changes whatever it comes in contact with. So collectively, the collective consciousness of humanity has entered into a cauldron that somebody is turning up the heat. So learn to see the world in this way. Whenever you have things really breaking open and going through rapid, dramatic changes, that it's usually due to an unseen cause. And I don't mean just propaganda and those kinds of influences, which are more psychological. Those are psychological. Look for the spiritual causes. And spiritual causes those are always cosmological. If you're an astrologer, you know a little bit about that, but I'm talking about more of a solar, the understanding of the solar nature of the great being we live within, which is like this solar system. I mean, you know, the God is much bigger, but for us, it helps just to bring it down to a size that we can relate to, which is our solar system. And even astrology shows that we've got, I like to think of the 12 signs of the zodiac as the 12 aspects of the personality of God, which, like any other personality, is constantly going through cycles of permutations and evolution and squares, you know, where one aspect is going to compete with another aspect, and in that tension of the opposites, something new can come about, you know, and then fueling evolution. All of that happens within us because we all have those 12 signs within us, but we also have the sun. And so this is what I mean when I talk about the great being of the solar system. It's the one for which the sun is the source of all light, life, and love. It's the organizing principle, without which no connections would be possible because everything would just fly apart. So when we talk about spiritual causes, that's what we're talking about. We're talking more on the cosmological level than we are on the mundane or even in the psychological or mass mind of the planet. So even though these thoughts come into our heads and into our hearts, where, you know, we have like an emotional reaction to something, even though they're not ours, we are responsible for what we do with them. This is kind of like what Jesus said, offenses must come. Offenses are going to happen, but woe unto him through whom they happen. You see, you don't want to put yourself in that position, not because God or Jesus is going to smite you out of revenge. No, that's very immature thinking. What he's saying is simply, if you're going 5 miles an hour, you can open the door of your car and jump out and you're going to be okay. If you're going 75 miles an hour and you open the door and get out, you're not going to be okay. So right now we're going 75 miles an hour. So you must take on personal responsibility for what you accept within your being, because very little of it is you. Most of it, almost all of it, and for a vast majority of people, it's 100%. Original thought is one of the rarest things on this planet. So you can just assume that your thoughts and feelings are coming from an external source. So you want to be objective with them. You want to back away and say, do I really think that? Do I really know that? Or am I just falling into a polarization dynamic that is being amped up by somebody else? See, this is very important. This is so important if you're going to attempt any degree of self-knowledge. The first step of that is to realize what's coming from you and what's coming from somewhere else. So do that.